the one and only Mike Carr.
I got in the car on Christmas Day and she took off! Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I was not driving. She was driving. Oh, she was mad. But she had a right to be. Fellow Toastmasters, the moral to this story is that there is no unconditional love without unconditional forgiveness. That driver was my wife. And the story of how I ended up in this racing vehicle began one day before Christmas Eve. It was 1995 and I had been really busy. I had been meaning to shop for my wife for Christmas for months. But here it was, the day before Christmas Eve, and I had nothing. So I went running through the office calling, "Hey, does anyone have a catalog?" Someone did. I opened it to find one of those wine necklaces from the 90s. This is just as they were going out of style. But it looked great to me, and they had overnight delivery, so I swung by the office the next day and picked up my gift from FedEx, and I headed home for Christmas Eve. That night, my wife and I put our kids to bed early, and we sat down in front of a roaring fire. Julie looked at me and she said, "I want to give you your Christmas present." Apparently, she had been, for a year, watching the kinds of gifts I admired. So when she hands me this beautifully wrapped box, I opened it and I found a pair of silver cufflinks engraved with my initials. I was thrilled. And then she said, "Now it's my turn." I went over to my briefcase and I pulled out an unopened FedEx envelope and handed it to her. With an interesting look on her face, she opened the envelope, reached in, and pulled out a little clear baggie, holding it up to the firelight. I could see the necklace was made of plastic. Oh. She slowly put the necklace back in the envelope and quietly went to bed. And I thought, I wonder if something could be wrong. We got up the next morning, got in the car to go to my parents' house, and she took off! I mean, she went from 0 to 60 faster than I could say, "Costume jewelry!" But that's when I realized I needed unconditional forgiveness. But it was about to get worse. We got to my parents' house, opened the front door, and there stood my mother, crying, "Oh, Michael, you have to come and see what your brother-in-law got for your sister for Christmas. He got her the most beautiful necklace." My brother-in-law had been paying for dental school, and so they had decided no money for Christmas presents. Instead, for months, he had been saving up all of the extra shavings of gold left over after filling gold teeth. And then he had carved out a mold of a little schnauzer puppy, my sister's favorite dog. He melted down the shavings of gold, poured them into the mold to create this beautiful little schnauzer charm. And then, my mother cried, "This is my favorite part!" He did not eat lunch for 3 months so he could save up money for a modest chain on which to hang the beautiful little schnauzer charm. Oh, my mother cried, "It's just so wonderful!" I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. Julie, what did Michael get for you? I looked at my wife. I could tell. I was dead. And I deserved it. Because you see, it hadn't just been this necklace. And it hadn't just been the last many months. There had been 2 years that I had been thoughtless and insensitive and too very focused on things that did not walk or breathe or hold my hand. I deserved whatever pain was coming next. So Julie, what did Michael get for you? That question still hung heavy in the air, and Julie's face was red. But instead, she reached back and pulled her collar back and said, Michael also got me this beautiful necklace. She saved me. Have you ever landed on the soft side of unconditional forgiveness? I learned something that day that I would like to pass on to you now. How many of you are like me and are perfect? None of us actually are. We all require forgiveness, and so we all should be willing to extend forgiveness, especially to those we love. My friends, there is no unconditional love without unconditional forgiveness. Julie and I walked away from my parents that morning when we got back in our car. I looked over at her and I said, thank you. I am really sorry. She actually reached up and touched my face. She said, it's okay. I love you. And do not ever let that happen again.